TitleMatchNetwork.com.
How'd you wind up in WCW in Atlanta?
The last time?
The last time.
Okay. I had left World Class in 88, I believe. Al Perez and we left. I was disappointed. Fritz brought Ken Mantell back as one of the promoters.
Was there a lot of friction between you and Ken?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I don't know how he actually felt about me.
Right.
But I never had any problems with Ken. I mean, I didn't agree with a lot of stuff he did. I didn't think he was very creative. I thought, as far as taking a list of names, good guys and bad guys, and matching them up, he could do that. Was he a matchmaker like a Bill Watts or Gary Hart or Dusty Rhodes or an O'Bannerson? No, he wasn't in our league. Could he develop and create talent? Could he find a guy and develop him, create him, and make him a main eventer? No, I don't think he could do that. But could he take the Freebirds and the Von Erichs and put them in matches and draw money? Yeah, because the gimmick was already shot.
Right.
The angle was off and running. So he was successful, but Fritz brought him back in and wanted him to do some promotion. And I just said to myself, this don't feel right to me. And Dusty approached me, and I decided to go to the Carolinas. And then once Jimmy Crockett sold his business to Turner, Al finally left, and they asked if I could create another Kabuki. And I said, well, I can't create a Kabuki, but I can create something similar.
Right.
And they said, well, who would you get to do this? And I had known Duke Kiwanuka for many, many years, since Pac Song. Well, actually, since Texas. I wrestled him in Texas as a young boy. And Pac Song, and then the Great Kabuki. And they said, we got a boy named the Great Muta, or Kenji Muta. And I said, yeah, I know him. I saw him on World Class. He was in World Class. Muta had been around a long time, but had never really been packaged or given any direction. So I got in touch with him. Matsuda and Duke got in touch with me. And I took him around to towns here in the Carolinas, just small towns, no big towns. I showed him some tapes of the Great Kabuki. And I told him, I want you not to be the Great Kabuki. I want you to be similar. I want to present you as the son of the Great Kabuki, but I'm not going to tell everyone that in the beginning. I'm going to wait. And I don't want you to be mean and evil like the Kabuki. I want you to be like a superhero with a bad guy.
Right.
Because my biggest fear was I didn't want people to think I'm copying myself on the Great Kabuki. I wanted to make the Muta completely opposite. Similar, but opposite. And he became the Great Muta really, really quickly and did tremendous business. A great kid. Had a lot of good times with him.
How did you wind up leaving WCW?
Well, I had an incident in Baltimore with some fans, with Terry Funk and Ricky Flair. And had to slap a couple people around, and they threw him out of the building. The promoter, Gary Capetta.
Right.
Gary
Juster?
Gary Juster,
right.
Excuse me. Gary Capetta, I believe, was the announcer.
Right.
Very good announcer, by the way. And Gary Justin let it back in the arena, so therefore they sued me. And Jim Hurd's theory was that I go to court, put my hand on the Bible, and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and admit that wrestling was worked, that it was manipulated. And I told him, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go out and court of law and say that I'm a phony. I've been a phony my whole life, because I wasn't.
Right.
I never looked at wrestling as fake. I looked at it as manipulated. And I wasn't prepared to do that. And he told me, he said, well, I admitted it in the, I believe it was the Wall Street Journal. And he picked up the paper off his desk and said, looky here. I admitted it. And I said, you're not Gary Hart. And I am. And you can kiss my ass and go to hell. I'm going home to Texas. So I quit.
Wow. Did anybody from New York ever attempt to bring you up there around this time
I
period?
was not a New York type guy. Like I said, I have nothing but respect for Bobby Heenan. I think, he was one of the greatest mouthpieces in wrestling. I think he was very entertaining. But Bobby managed guys for the office.
Right.
That wasn't me. My thing was I managed who I wanted to manage. I left when I wanted to leave. I took my talent with me when I left. And I wasn't the type of guy that New York would be interested in. They wanted more of a Lou Albano, a Bobby Heenan, resident manager,
Right.
more or less. And I was never interested in that. I wanted to select the guys I managed. I wanted to present them the way I wanted to present it. I wanted to have the ability, when a promoter didn't pay us the way we deserved to be paid, that the talent knew that Gary was with them. Gary wasn't with the office. Even though Gary may be the booker, he was still with them. And by not being have that type of connection as the resident manager, it allowed me the opportunity to say, hey, why don't we go to the Carolinas? Why don't we leave and go to Georgia? Why don't we leave and go to Australia? Why don't we leave and go to Florida? So a promoter could never have me in that, like he was never secure that Gary's here, because he knew that if Gary wasn't pleased with the way he was being used or presented or paid, Gary would leave. Gary's talent knew that if they were being mistreated or misused, Gary would go to the office, and if Gary couldn't solve that problem, Gary would come to them and say, let's go someplace else.
Right.
So I would travel with my talent. I wasn't a resident manager for a territory. I think that's one of the reasons I was never an attractive option for New York. And I was very difficult, and I admit it. If I didn't get my way, there was hell to pay.
Right.
And I admit it, and I know it. But that's what helped me be successful, because I always told promoters, look at my track record. I had a magnificent track record. I never failed any place I was ever at. Once I went to Texas and got with the spoiler, I had nothing but success for the rest of my career in developing and creating guys. So I was a little different than most managers.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.